welcome everybody back to the Horsemen Pro Football Talk. I'm Brad.
I'm Zach. Welcome back.
And I'm Jeff.
All right, and today we are going to discuss the NFC West. And we tried to get a fan to come on. I got a lot of people saying they're fans, but they don't know enough to come on a podcast. So hopefully we'll find somebody that feels confident to talk about their team soon. We're gonna go down through the NFC West division, go through each team, and we're gonna start with the Arizona Cardinals, right?
Yep.
We always start with the who we think may finish at the bottom of the division. Jeff, you disagree with that, right?
Yeah, I was a little different on the division.
Okay, all right. Well, Zach and I agreed, so we're going to start with the Cardinals. Okay, I am not real impressed here with Cliff Kingsbury, head coach. Look, this guy had he doesn't have any winning seasons. He just came out of college. He's had 2 winning seasons at Texas Tech out of 6. Last year they went 5-10. The Cardinals went 5-10. I don't even know how this guy got a job, to be honest. He went to 3 bowl games at Texas Tech, only won one of them, the first one, ironically, when he was there. And that's the Barry Switzer effect. A lot, your first year in, you inherit a lot from the coach behind you, or the coach that was ahead of you. His total coaching record is 40-50, which is terrible. I don't even know. So, I guess he's the quarterback whisperer, right? So he's at Case Keenum. We all know who Case Keenum is. And Case Keenum's now is he in Cleveland?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think he's the backup in Cleveland. But we know what he did, in Minnesota. He showed some talent, blah, blah, blah. And we talked about it. You hear his name on ESPN, and he's made some type of a name for himself. So he played under Kingsbury in 2008, 2011, and University of Houston. Johnny Manziel played under Kingsbury in 2012 with Texas A&M. Baker Mayfield, which is ironic that Case and Baker are both in Cleveland. Not that it means anything worth anything. David Webb, who is the backup for the Buffalo Bills, and Patrick Mahomes, who needs no introduction, played for him in Texas Tech. So I don't know.
Well, it's a new craze. Get a young, energetic head coach and try to see what can happen. I don't think he's gonna do very well, but it's like Sean McVay. He came in, he was young, energetic, fired up the team, took them to the Super Bowl, but now they're heading the opposite direction.
Yeah, quite possibly, which we're going to get into that. I don't know, Jeff. What do you think?
I'm not really I'm not a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury. I'm same line of thinking as you. I don't know how he even got the job. I know they brought in him and Kyler together to run that offense, but it's the college systems over time have been proven that they just don't work in the NFL. You might have a little success with it like they did at the end of last season, but in the NFL, these defensive coaches are just so good at dissecting. If Kingsbury can't figure out new things to do and can't adapt and add some more pro style offense, then over time they're just going to lose more and more games, no matter how much talent they
have. Yeah, and that's even given this a lot more credit than it's due, because he hasn't done anything. He didn't do anything in college. I mean, he had 2 out of 6 winning seasons. The only thing he's done is develop quarterbacks. So I don't know. Maybe they bring him in. Can I plant a seed of conspiracy here? They bring him in to develop Kyler Murray and let him get him up to speed, and then fire him after a couple of years and bring in another coach. I don't know. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Man, that's a good conspiracy theory. They do have a stacked offensive team. The only thing is their O line sucks, which I know. I was reading Jeff's notes, so I got to give him credit on that. But they have a stacked offensive team, so maybe they do have Kingsbury develop Murray and then switch to somebody more traditional and take it from there.
Yeah, I agree. Especially bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, that was huge because Christian Kirk, he's a guy that I drafted pretty high in fantasy last year. I think he's got a lot of talent. They have another guy they drafted last year, Andy Isabella. He's an up and coming guy. And so you have all these guys that help Larry Fitzgerald. And Kenyon Drake was kind of reborn there. So the offense is kind of stacked. The offensive line is going to be an issue, um, which I think could be an issue for Kyler. I'm not a huge Kyler fan either. I think, he's pretty good, but that offensive line, if he starts taking a bunch of hits, and he gets, maybe he does a Drew Brees and gets a hurt shoulder, but if he can't come back from it the same way, so there's some injury troubles that I have with him because he's just so small. But their defense was actually pretty good last year. And they didn't really bring anybody in, but they didn't really lose anybody either. They did draft Isaiah Simmons, and I think that's going to be a big deal. He's going to be a stud for at least 10 years. So I have faith in their defense, but I don't know about their offense.
Well, yeah, they also brought in 2 more defensive linemen and a linebacker in the draft, and they are bringing back Chandler Jones and Buda Baker. Both were Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, Buda Baker's super underrated too. He's been good for a couple years. Doesn't really ever get mentioned.
Okay, so they have the talent to win, right?
I think they do.
So this
at least a foundation for the future.
Yeah. So this rests on Kingsbury's shoulders. Sounds like.
I'd have to agree. Yeah.
He's going to make it or break it. Not that you expect a second year guy to come out and be a Super Bowl contender. I don't want to be ridiculous about it. But 5 wins last year. I mean, if you're not hovering around 500, you're doing something wrong in this league. Or obviously you played with injuries or some other things, but I think he's got to at least be hovering around 500 for us to think he's got a legitimate shot of lasting this league.
Yeah, no doubt.
Unfortunately, I got him for 5 wins.
I got him on 3.
I got him going 8-8.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right.
That's pretty solid.
You're giving old Cliff a vote of confidence, huh, Jeff?
Well, that roster, they're a really good team.
That pickup Hopkins was huge.
Yeah.
Good old Bob making that deal.
Yeah. I hope Bob gets a Christmas card from Cliff every year. All right. So let's move on to the Rams, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Now, this was tough for me because I like Sean McVay. But Zach, you touched on this a minute ago. This may be going the wrong way.
Yeah, I think it is. He was energetic, had the team all fired up, took them to the Super Bowl, and it just seems to be going the other way last couple of seasons.
Yeah. And I don't know enough about what they dealt with. Just to be transparent and honest, I don't know what was the reasoning behind it. Last year they missed the playoffs. They were what, 9-7? Is that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, in the previous 2 years, I think they won the division. Obviously, they lost in the Super Bowl, and so this is another coach who I think this is his year to prove it or lose it. I think if they miss the playoffs again, I don't know how you can resurrect that confidence that a coach has to have for the buy-in. Guys start thinking. This is just a mediocre program. They start looking for contracts elsewhere, and they don't really believe in what you're doing as much. And I think he has to win 9 or 10 games, and maybe not even just getting to the playoffs. But he might have to win a playoff game to reset the momentum and get things moving back. If they get in the playoffs and they lose, I think the ship might start to sink. But I don't I got them right at the middle of the road, depending on what happens. You know, a game or two either way of 500, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I have them 7 wins, 7-9. They're not getting in the playoffs. I don't see them competing with the Seahawks and the Niners. They're just too good.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I like Sean McVay. What they're doing with the offense seems a little complicated because they have Sean McVay was calling the plays, but now he's brought in an offensive coordinator. But they still have a guy that runs. He's the running game coordinator, and another guy who's still the passing game coordinator. And the passing game coordinator is also the quarterback's coach. So I don't know how they figure that out. That they might have that mastered, but it just seems like you're doing a whole lot, and now they don't have as much talent. Whoever the GM there is kind of put the whole team in a bad position when he started handing out all these contracts with all this guaranteed money.
The Todd Gurley contract.
Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks is another one. He stopped producing the way he was when he got the contract. Jared Goff, obviously didn't produce the way he did the year before. And so you had all this money shuffled out, but now you've lost all these guys that you either cut because they weren't producing anymore and you want to go ahead and try to start to rebuild. And when they got rid of Gurley, that was the indication to me that this is a soft rebuild and to not really expect much this year. I think the way the coaches, all that coaching stuff is working out, I think that's going to be like a trial run. There's probably some kind of agreement with the GM and McVay that like, hey, I put you in a bad spot here with the team. Let's just do the best we can this year, see what happens next year in free agency.
See, I don't. I mean, it's a good point, but I don't see a GM ever acknowledging that because I mean, if they're going to lose their job, they're going to blame it on the coach. And in my opinion, McVay's making that last ditch effort. He got rid of his OC and his DC to bring 2 new guys in. He's trying to spark something because I think he knows he's on the chopping block.
Yeah, and like I just mentioned a minute ago, I think it's apparent. And guys like McVay, he could go on to another team and build a Super Bowl program. He could be very capable, but you lose the buy-in, it's over. You lost the locker room. You'll never get it back. It doesn't matter what you do. You have to go somewhere else. So, okay, cool. All right, now we're going to the Seahawks.
Your favorite team, huh?
I don't mind the Seahawks. I just can't stand Pete Carroll. Listen to this. Come on now, listen. Pete Carroll was a disaster as the New York Jets head coach. He was a disaster as the New England Patriots head coach. He cheated and destroyed the USC program. Then he went to Seattle. You know what he's done in Seattle? Lost to the Bears in the NFC divisional game. Missed the playoffs. Lost to the Falcons in the NFC divisional game. Then they won the Super Bowl. Lost to New England Super Bowl with the whole controversy of they probably should have won the Super Bowl. Next year, lost to Carolina Panthers in the divisional game. Lost to the Falcons in the divisional game. Missed the playoffs. Lost to the Cowboys in the wild card game. Lost to the Packers in the NFC divisional game. They're overrated. He's only won the division 4 times since 2010 years. Missed the playoffs twice. And did I mention that he lost a wild card game to the Cowboys? Did I mention that? How many playoff games have the Cowboys won since 1993? 1 against Pete Carroll? I don't know.
That might be it.
So they won a Super Bowl. A dog shines on the sun will shine on a dog's ass every once in a while. He should have won 2. We all know that. The passing fiasco at the 1. I just think he's an underachiever. I think he's built a good program. He's put the right talent in place. But I think I don't know. You guys, well, I won't tip my hand about some other coaches we'll probably talk about in the future. Well, I don't care. I'm not a Dungy fan. I like Dungy. but I think Dungy's overrated. I think Pete Carroll's overrated. I think with some of the teams he's put together, he should have more than one. We know he should have had two. Um, and even if Super Bowl rings are hard to come by, you have to have a lot of things go right and have some luck with you. But man, he's losing wild card divisional games year after year after year. I think they don't win the. I think it's just, this year's more of the same. I think they don't win the division. I think they don't win the division, and they exit the playoffs early.
What do you have their record as?
Middle of the road, game or two each side of 500. Nothing spectacular. I think it depends on. I think it depends on what happens with the Rams and the 49ers. We're getting ready to get into them. The 49ers have a little more up in the air than I mean, we're going to talk about that. That they're susceptible to having. They could either completely dominate this division, or they could struggle. We could have a lot of parity. I don't think so, but it could happen. So it depends on what the Rams and the 49ers do. But I just have them right in the middle of the pack.
Well, I think they're going to do a little bit better than middle. I have them 12-4, 4-2 in the division. They're going to come down to Week 17 against the Niners. That game's going to be for the division, which I have the Niners winning it. I'm not a big Pete Carroll fan either. However, what's he, the vice president of the Seahawks too? I think he is. But without Russell Wilson, he's not doing anything. So he hit the lottery with Russell Wilson. As far as this year, in my opinion, Tyler Lockett's good. DK Metcalf's showing promise, but they don't really have any high-quality receivers, nor do they have any solid running backs anymore. They have Chris Carson, they have Lockett and Metcalf, but other than that, they don't really have any skill positions. It's all in Wilson's hand to do some stuff on the field. But they did pick up Greg Olsen, which I'm a huge Greg Olsen fan. Love picking him up in fantasy almost every single year. So hopefully he can do something good. I know Pete Carroll likes to use his tight ends pretty well.
Yeah, he's got a lot of them to use too. Jacob Hollister came on pretty strong when Will Dissly got hurt last year. Will Dissly was looking like a top 5 tight end. So, with the way Russell Wilson likes to roll around out of the pocket and stuff, I think Phil Dorsett's a good addition too. With the way Russ plays, if he gets out of the pocket, Phil Dorsett can get away from somebody downfield.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they thought he was going to do with the Colts. With who? When did we pick him up? Was that just a luck error? Or did we have Manning for that?
Luck error, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Brady in New England. Everybody thought the same thing. He didn't really do anything there either. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's not a guy you lean on, but as a guy that he's like a Ted Ginn type. Every now and then you can just pin him down and he'll blow the top off of it real quick. But then you have, again, the 3 tight ends. Russell Wilson's going to have options all day to throw it underneath if he needs to. And Chris Carter, I like Chris Carson a lot. I thought he was going to have a bigger year than he did last year. But he got hurt, and I think he still had over 1,000 yards with the games he played. So he's a stud. I expect him to do well. And Russell Wilson's obviously a baller. Defense might be a problem, though. It's been getting worse every year. So that'll be their downfall if the young guys can't play well.
So I guess coming back to the opening remarks, if they don't do anything this year, does Pete Carroll come back next year? Probably.
Yeah, they got him in as a vice president. I don't.
Yeah, I think I think if they kept him this long, it's hard to depart from mediocre success. It's hard to win in this league, and if you have a program and a coach and things are working where you're still making the playoffs, it's hard to walk away from that. It's hard to they fire a guy, they got to start all over. So I think you're right. I think you really have to run things in the ground. I don't even know that a 2-14 season would get him fired. Yeah, they'd probably get him fired. But.
Yeah, I mean that'd be about how the Jim Caldwell era went, getting carried by Peyton and that system, and then go 2-14 and bring new coaches in, new GM, switch the whole thing up.
Yeah. Of course, it was as much as I dislike Pete Carroll, he's no Jim Caldwell. I saw through Jim Caldwell the first year when everyone thought he was the second savior behind Dungy, and the penalties went through the roof, and I knew it was a disaster waiting to come. I actually wrote a couple articles about it, Bleacher Report. So. All right, on to the 49ers. For as much as I don't like Pete Carroll, I like Kyle Shanahan. I like his dad. He comes from a strong football family, comes from a strong football coaching tree. His dad, when he was won 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos. But I didn't realize until the other day that he set an NFL record with victories. He went 46-10 over a 3-year span, and that's a current NFL record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't realize. I mean, I watched that happen. I didn't realize that that's what it was. He coached under Dan Reeves. You guys know who Dan Reeves is?
Mm-hmm.
Dan Reeves was previous coach of the Broncos, and he was the previous winningest coach for the Broncos, which is now Mike Shanahan. And Dan Reeves comes out of the George Seifert coached with George Seifert, that puts all of them in the Bill Walsh coaching tree, which is pretty significant. Bill Walsh revolutionized the game. We're still talking about the West Coast offense here, 30, 40 years later. So, so Kyle is in that tree with Bill Walsh. Now that doesn't guarantee anything, but it's still a pretty strong resume, pretty strong pedigree. Kyle, offensive coordinator with the Falcons in 2016. Offense led the league in points scored. They got to the Super Bowl 51. They put up 21 in the first half against the Patriots. He did his job. He did enough to win. What happened in the second half was not Shanahan's fault. Maybe they didn't put up enough points as they did in the second half, but you're coaching against Bill Belichick. That probably wasn't going to happen anyway.
28-3, is that the?
Yeah. Yeah. That whole disaster that was only outdone by the Texans last year, letting the Falcons off the hook for eternity. So he did his job. So then he was hired by the 49ers in 2017, trying to rebuild the program. They were 13-3 last year, 15-4 overall, and then losing the Super Bowl to a dominant Chiefs team. So this could swing either way. This is a shit or get off the pot moment again. This guy comes out and they struggle to win 8 games. He could be in a lot of trouble. Could be a fluke because of the 2 years rebuilding. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to come out and they're going to tweak some things. I don't know the 13-3. I mean, it's tough to win 13 games in this league, no doubt. Injuries come into play, and there's just a whole lot that comes into play. But I really think they'll be strong, and this year it's his opportunity to dictate his validity as a head coach, for sure. And I guess we'll find out if it's a fluke or not.
Kyle Shanahan has proven himself through the years, no doubt. And the defensive coordinator, Robert Salah, I'm actually surprised he didn't get a head coaching job, but he did a real good job. With that team last year. They have a pretty good mix of young guys and veterans, which is pretty essential. And but I like what they do with the offense because Jimmy Garoppolo, he wasn't even really the vocal part of that offense, right? They have the running game was the part that they leaned on, but Garoppolo still found a way to have just under 4,000 yards. He had 13 interceptions, which isn't great, obviously.
It was a very quiet 4,000 yards.
Yeah, very. Because everybody kept talking about the running game. 3 running backs switching. Yeah. And actually, the top 2 running backs carried the ball both 137 times, which obviously Raheem Mostert was more productive and will probably be their lead back this year with the way they're going to do things. But what scares me with them is Emmanuel Sanders left, and Deebo Samuel was supposed to be, or is going to be the number 1. He's supposed to be ready by week 1, but just broke his foot 2 days ago, I think. So, if he comes back, I've heard that he should sit out an extra 4 weeks from what he's planning to. So there's a possibility, you have a situation with his foot like Cam had with his when he tried to come back early and hurt his foot. Because the receivers, so much of the receiver's job is their footwork and pressing off of it. So that could be an issue with him if he doesn't get that healed right. But other than Debo Samuel and George Kittle, they don't really have like any known big time number one receiver. So if one of those guys or both of those guys get hurt, they could be in some trouble. But other than that, I like the team a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to jump on that and agree. I like Shanahan. I think he's going to do well for years to come. He's enthusiastic, gets the guys fired up. He's young. Um, Obviously, we all saw what they did last year. They're bringing back 4 Pro Bowlers. George Kittle, absolute monster. Nick Bosa, another monster. Then you got Richard Sherman, who's still balling out. I don't even know how old he is, but he's still locking boys up. Jimmy G, solid quarterback. Do I think he's an elite quarterback? No, but he's pretty solid. He did very well, including in the Super Bowl last year. So I think he'll continue to get better. As long as he protects the ball, they'll be fine. Then you got Mostert, Coleman, and McKinnon. If McKinnon can stay healthy, you got a 3-headed rushing attack. It's going to absolutely dominate. Debo Samuel, that injury, if it doesn't heal, they may be in some trouble. But they did draft in the first round Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. He's a receiver, and then their last pick, Jawan Jennings, he's from Tennessee. He was a good pickup too, as put a little depth on the receiver chart. Overall, I think they're going to do well. I got them 12-4, winning that last game against Seattle. They're going to take the number 3 seed in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. I think they might be able to get back into the Super Bowl, but I guess we'll see.
So just a little caveat here. You may have heard me tell this story, but back in the early '90s, I took my wife to St. Elmo's Steakhouse for Valentine's Day dinner, and it was during the NFL Combine. And the table right next to me, it wouldn't be there today because of social distancing. Less than 6 feet from me was George Seifert and Mike Shanahan. True story.
Nice. That's cool.
And I was able to listen to what they were saying and act like I was paying attention to your mom.
You better hope she doesn't see this.
True story. True story. So I think we all agree the 49ers winning the division and a very strong contender to make another Super Bowl run.
Yep. And in the fan poll, they also agree 75% of the votes went for the Niners and 25% went to the Seahawks.
Okay. Well, there you have it. The fans have spoken. So, okay. All right. Anything else?
That's all I got today.
All right. We'll wrap this one up. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell all your friends and check out the previous episodes and be sure to check in. We've got the AFC West coming up soon. And last but not least, we'd love to hear from you. Please let us know. We're looking for participants. If you know about football, just being a fan doesn't cut it. If you know about football, we'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to talk about your team with you. So, all right, guys. Talk soon.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
Ciao.